Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist.
1 Minute Apologist.
Apologetics seeks to give credible answers to curious questions, to give a defense.
What are some tips for spiritual seekers? In Acts chapter 8, we get the great passage where Philip has this encounter with the Ethiopian eunuch. In the previous video, I shared some tips for being effective in our evangelism and how to go about evangelizing. However, in this particular video, I want to figure out what we can learn from the Ethiopian eunuch for those who might be on a truth quest or they're spiritual seekers. Maybe that's you. And you go, Bobby, where do I begin this quest? Well, I think start seeking. That's what we see with the Ethiopian eunuch, traveling all the way from Africa to Jerusalem. This could have been a 2 to 3 month endeavor, maybe even longer depending on stops. And this is a long trip. So don't put limits to the distance you're willing to travel for the truth. I think also the eunuch was returning and he did not really encounter Christ. He went to worship God, yet while he was returning, he had this encounter with Philip, and Philip would help him to understand more clearly who Jesus is. So perhaps the eunuch was headed back to Africa and he was discouraged. I traveled all this way and I didn't have the encounter I wanted. And yet, God, at just the right time, met him with the person of Philip. Ask God to bring the right people into your life. That's what happened here with Philip. Philip shows up. Now, whether the eunuch was praying for that, it's pretty cool that Philip came there, and we can learn, God, bring the right people into my life, into my pathway who can point me towards the truth. And then I would also say, read the word. Get in and study the scriptures. What was the eunuch doing? He was reading a scroll from Isaiah, and he was reading Isaiah 53 in particular, a great prophecy there about Jesus Christ 700 years before he even came. Perhaps read Isaiah 53. Not only that, be teachable. He was willing to say, hey, help me out here. Help me to understand this passage. And I think teachability goes a long ways on our spiritual quest. Ask questions. But when your questions are satisfactorily answered, be ready to respond. He says, what hinders me from being baptized? And he went down into the water and he was baptized. And then he came up and he was rejoicing. I'd say this, get ready to rejoice when you discover the truth. Those are some practical tips for going on a truth journey.